Remember, I carried you to land beginnings.
I'm interested in forms that have a life, so they're not static.
Remember how I carried you to land beginnings. Remember how I carried you to land beginnings.
You seem fearless.
I'll try anything.
All beginnings.
Working with Frank is like going for adventure, but you don't know where you're going. And you don't know where you're going to land. So it's great. I worked with Frank for almost 40 years. Frank never does the same thing twice. The process of changing and creating almost never ends. So it has to be forced, and usually forced by the time constraint. There's a time limit. At some point, that's it. We are not messing with it anymore.
Why the fish?
I think we both see architecture as art, absolutely.
Yeah.
But we both know that a building's not a sculpture. So, why do you make these, and how do you see them as fitting in with the rest of your practice?
For me, it's studies in form, just ideas is the way I think. I never thought of it as making sculpture. And I think the fish form is architectural. That's my take. I like the expression of movement. I wondered if you could recreate that in some way, could get it in a building.
Maybe they can't be separated, but is that quality of the movement or the curvature itself?
So both. So the movement is, you look around, you got airplanes, cars, rocket ships. Everything's moving. The whole environment's moving. It's like being in the time you're in.
So the fish is sort of ancient, but that quality of movement is very contemporary.
It's contemporary, yeah. I was working in Venice with the Oldenburgs on the Corso de Cotello's appeal. And the sponsors of that were a fashion house from Florence. They asked me to make a fish sculpture for a show at the Pitti Palace. And they wanted it big. They wanted it about 30 feet long.
Had they seen your drawings, or they knew you were interested?
Yeah, they got the word.
Yeah, right. The word was out probably at that
Well, I'd made some sculpture. I made a sculpture for Castelli Gallery, I think, of a fish and a snake together. And I said it was for a rich person to have in their yard in case a robber came in and they caught him. They could put him in the snake, like the prison, and they could sit in the fish, which is beautiful, waiting for the police to arrive. That was my story. The fish then got made for Cinecittà. I went there. They made a 36-foot fish in wood, but with eyeballs and tails, and it looked like the biggest piece of kitsch I've ever seen. It was so embarrassing, I couldn't believe it. I didn't go to the show, but they then donated it to the Castello di Rivoli, which was opening a new museum, and they were having a show of my work, and they brought the fish to the show. And I was standing in the gallery being totally embarrassed, and I felt it moving. A museum director who didn't like my work was standing beside me and said, "How'd you do that?" So he caught it. So there were some clues that that these forms could be beautiful.
These are really magical, Frank. It's very mystical shit. They're really magical. It's something about feeling the presence of a very ancient thing in the present in a very present material or futuristic material.
Thank you for doing this. When Larry offered me the show, he said, there's a little gallery upstairs that I'd like you to use too, and maybe you can put some of your architectural models in there. And I started trying to make Mad Hatter's Tea Party. Many years ago, maybe 25, I was having lunch with Carrie Fisher, who's a great friend. We were talking about Lewis Carroll, and of course, Carrie was that kind of person. that you could have a serious discussion about Alice in Wonderland. And she brought me a book as a gift, which I have. I thought Larry would see it and shut it down. I was prepared that they would say, look, don't do that. We took it further and further, and finally he came and saw it. And he said, holy, that's great. And with his blessing, we kept going.
We started with a model, then we built the big cardboard pieces to see the full scale. And after that, we started fabricating that in the durable material. Everything is made out of aluminum. Actually, what we are looking at is two different shows. One is the Tea Party, and the other one is fish. Frank has affair with fish for a long, long time.
So Thomas, there's never anything he'll say no to. And that's incredible.
I think you're sticking it too far.
Too far out?
Yeah, too far out.
Little long.
You may shorten it.
Okay.
Don't go any farther than that.
He bends to my aesthetic, mostly. Every once in a while he sneaks in a little bit. But I think we talk about what's been before and what we might want to do. I never expected to be making fish lamps. He's been working on them. I think he put a kid through college. The earlier ones were very simple, sedate. We wanted them to be more fluent and fluid. When you pile up the models, if you blink, you see Bernini's sculptures in a way.
So that was unconscious?
Yeah, totally. Made me very happy. It's nice to have partners in crime here. And it's messy.
Do you think a messy desk is a sign of a creative mind? Or
I think so. I don't know. I hope so. This is pure philanthropy that we've been working on for a lot of years now, where the kids don't have any open space, and we're trying to make 40 acres of park space.
Oh, wow.
Kids grow up without park space, have a shorter lifespan, apparently. So Tay is an interesting young artist who made that with his hands.
Incredible.
So the fish were simple, and then they got more Baroque. And
This is the scale. But these are the leaves for the...
Yeah.
Okay. That became a fish scale. Basically.
yes, yeah.
Okay.
When I watch Tay work with his hands, it's a little miracle happening.
When I started at the office, I remember I was so intimidated. I was a little kid in early 20s, and he's already a world-famous architect. I know he's so sharp. So these guys typically start up on a flat sheet. So we hammer it to get the embossing. Then we work the copper to bring out even more. From that point on, then it's more about bending and curling the leaf in such a way that it picks up the light and bounce off each other. And you just keep playing with that back and forth, back and forth. There's a fine line where you start to recognize that leaf, but almost no longer, because it becomes just this swarm of this light and color.
The copper came from my working on an architectural project in which I was playing with copper leaves, and I had Tay and the guys make those copper leaves, and they're really beautiful. And so we had them lying around on the desks, and so it was a nanosecond before he said, hey, Tay, let's see if we can make a fish out of that. So he did. He made the little one, which you can see. And everybody fell in love with it. And of course, the gallery said, can you make a big one? And so we tried, and that's what we got.
You're still mesmerized by it, I think. It's like, when you're kids playing around, you discover something, you're like, wow.
Pancho! Let's say hi to Frank. Pekka is here too. Hi. For these kids that dream through the art, it's amazing to be surrounded by these beautiful pieces of art, but also by you. You are not a supporter, you are part of the dream.
So when I was studying architecture, I used to listen to Walt.
Exactly.
Because I could feel the architecture of the music.
Absolutely.
In America, we're supposed to have arts education in public schools, and it doesn't exist. And so this is the beginning. I'm 1,000,000%. I'm going to build every one of the buildings for you guys to play in.
Why the fish?
Why the fish? I was home because of COVID. My granddaughters come to the garden and play at a distance. And I said, Opal, have you ever been invited to the Mad Hatter's Tea Party? Of course, she didn't know what I was talking about. She looked up and she said, no. I said, would you like to be invited? She said, yes. So that day, I went to the office. The model of the room was there. And I started trying to make the tea party. Yes. There's the beginning.
Okay.
After talking to my granddaughter.
This is the first model.
Yeah. Opal came to see the maquettes being made. She calls me Nano. She said, Nano, you can't have a tea party without a teapot. That's the teapot. The kids are in it now, and they come by often and look at it to make sure we're doing it right. So Sophie is like Tay, and she has talents, and so I set her loose.
It's been quite a fun process. Frank is very hands-on, so he's very involved. He'll go in and crumple paper, and you work with him. You're always ready with the glue gun and develop the piece as he sees it. Sometimes he wants to step away and ask you to try it on your own and see what comes up. I think it's a way of just getting to something new. The space, the fact that it's kind of hidden on the second floor, the idea was to create kind of this surprise, like full of colors, this big highlight. Obviously, we had children in mind when we designed it, that elevation. The goal is to really get close to the figures. I think as we worked on it, we started using the metallic papers, and that was bringing a lot of light. That kind of informed what we ended up using for the final work. So we're using thin sheets of aluminum, something that we try to play with a lot at the office is what the material can really do in a simple way. When we're crumpling it like this, we're kind of creating a lot of texture, we're bringing highlights. It adds depth. The gestures we did to get to that piece are gestures that we do when we work on buildings, when we develop our ideas or work on design.
Frank makes you feel it's okay to be curious and look different. He's a great mentor and also very inspiring too.
If a young architect walks into Gagosian and sees this show, what do you hope they get from it? What do you hope they take away?
We all know curiosity is great. And so just be brave, take a chance, and start to express yourself. When I start a class at Yale for the year, I usually have about 10 students in the graduate class. And I ask them all to write their signatures on a piece of paper, and we lay them out. And you see that everyone has a different aesthetic, right? And so I say to them, that's you. So that's all you gotta do is keep being you. And don't edit yourself out because of some notion that you're not as good as them or that. It's worth a shot, so try it.